This is The Art of Plenty. My name is Amy McInnes. I am an entrepreneur, a registered clinical counselor, and if you could believe it, I am a mother of 5. Sometimes I can't even believe it. I find myself thinking, how did I get into this situation? And before, we used to have a minivan, and sometimes I would be driving and my kids would be saying things like, "Mom, Mom," and I would, in my brain, be thinking, when is my mom going to answer? And I think it's because when I was a kid, the first vehicle that I was driving was a minivan. But sometimes it feels like an out-of-body experience. Like, how could I possibly be a mother of 5? I don't get that feeling as much now as I used to because my kids are getting a little bit older. And I feel like I have worked my way through the baby phase and the toddler phase really effectively. But today I want to dive into how, as a mother, I have been intentional about giving my kids choices and my reasoning for doing that. Stick around because we end this episode by talking about some strategies and tips that you can implement in your own parenting so that you can help yourself by raising independent kids who make good choices. Okay, here's the deal. Can I just throw this out there that when I think about parenting, when I think about being a good mother, I don't think about really what I'm doing in the moment. I mean, I think about what I'm doing in the moment, but what I mean by that is I'm not looking at raising kids. I am working toward raising adults. When I make the decisions about my parenting style, when I'm very intentional about the things that I'm doing, what I'm constantly working towards is having kids who are going to be phenomenal adults, the types of people that I want to be in relationship with, and the type of people that will have an incredible impact on the world around them. That is what matters to me. That is the place that I parent from. So we have to work backwards, right? Or that's the way I like to think about things at times. If I want to have adult children who are really good at making wise decisions, then we got to start now. Because if I continue to make the decisions for them as they're little and as they're living in my house, what happens when they are no longer within my care? When they are no longer following a script of rules or expectations and they're free to do what they want? What will they do? How will they act? Because ultimately, I want my kids to be the same person within some degree that they are at home out in the world. My husband always tells this story about university. His mom used to send him these incredible care packages at holidays. And this one Halloween, she sent him boxes of mini chocolates. So hundreds of those tiny little chocolate bars. And a friend of his had come over and said, "Oh, can I have a chocolate?" And my husband, I mean, I wasn't there, so I'm telling this story based on what he told me. My husband's like, yeah, have a few. Yeah, go ahead, help yourself. No. If you have never had freedom to help yourself to chocolate, what would happen in a situation where all of a sudden there's hundreds of chocolate bars and no one is telling you no, and you've always been restricted on what you're allowed to eat in terms of chocolate bars? Well, guess what you do? You eat as many as you want and you don't even think about it. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm not inside this person's mind, so I don't really know what they were thinking. But when my husband got back, this person had eaten almost all of the chocolate bars. There were wrappers everywhere and totally had a tummy ache. Was not feeling good. But I don't know the way this person was raised. But what I do know is that when kids have opportunities to govern those kind of things, they get used to governing those things for themselves. And that is what I want to see my own kids do. We increase their capacity for making wise decisions when we give them opportunity to make decisions. Here's the deal. The types of decisions that they will have to make when they leave the home, when they are young adults, even when they're teenagers, because you're not always with them, those decisions have a lot of potential for completely directing their life. The decisions that they make as young adults, the decisions that we make as adults have a great impact. And if those are the first decisions they're making on their own, there's a lot of weight that comes with that. So I have tried to create opportunities for my kids to make decisions on their own. What are things that they can do that gives them the practice for making good decisions? Because ultimately, it's going to be up to them. They're the ones that are going to have to make the decisions in their own life. Here are some of the things that I have always given my kids decisions, always given them freedom to make these decisions. So one of them is clothes. I do not tell my kids what to wear, and I have never told my kids what to wear. Even when they were really little, like we're talking babies and didn't even really talk. Well, maybe not baby, but I would hold up 2 shirts, and whatever shirt they touched, that would be what I would put on them. Or I would hold up pants. Now, I didn't do this all the time because you don't always have time for that when they're toddlers. But as soon as they could choose their clothes, I would let them choose their clothes. And if I took them shopping and they were shopping with me, they would pick out their clothes. I would not pick out their clothes. Now, I did not let them anything you want in the store. No, I would say, okay, you need to find a shirt, or we're here for pants. Which pants do you like? And I would talk them through, okay, what are we going to use these pants for? What kind of shirts do you already have that you don't fit? Like, for example, if they have a whole bunch of t-shirts and they have no long sleeve shirts, then I might say, it's coming to be winter. Let's look for a long sleeve shirt. Or if I have a kid, which I do, that just lives hot, I would never make him pick out a long sleeve shirt. He always picked out short sleeves because he never wore long sleeves, even in the thick of winter. Clothes is one of those things that they should have a lot of control and autonomy over, because our clothes are often a reflection of who we are and how we're feeling that day, or what we like, or what we're thinking about. And kids have so little control in their life. They don't decide where they live. They don't decide what they get to do all day. They often don't have a lot of choice in what they're learning or who they're working with. Like, think about if you're a parent, think about when was the last time your kid got to choose their seat at school, or who they got to sit with, or who they got to work with, or who their teacher was. You see, as adults, we make all those choices. We decide where we want to go to work. We decide who we're going to work with. We decide where we're going to live. We decide who we're going to be in relationship with. Kids don't make any of those choices. So the more opportunity that we have as parents to give our kids opportunity to make selections and make choices in their life, the greater autonomy that they have, the greater control. And that is a really beautiful thing. I want my kids to feel like they have a say, that they have influence, because those qualities create independent, confident people. And ultimately, that's what I want. I want my kids to be confident. I want my kids to be competent. And I want them to be comfortable knowing that they can have an impact on the world around them. So here's a couple rules. If you give your kid a choice, before you do it, before you give them control over something, make sure that you are okay with the decision that they are going to make. And if you're not, don't give it to them, because there's nothing harder on a person, I don't think. Well, there's lots of things that are harder. Let's not be too dramatic about this. But when someone is given a choice and then they're told that, no, you don't actually get that choice, that is more difficult than being told you don't have a choice. Kids are already used to that. So if you're giving them an option, don't take it away. And I see that happen a lot with parents. I see parents saying to kids, yeah, you can choose. And then the parent oversteps and says, no, you have to choose this instead. What that means is before you give your kid the option, the choice, you have to make sure that you're comfortable with anything that they decide. So if they get to choose their clothes in the store and they pick out something that you think is ugly, you have to be able to deal with it. And you have to be able to deal with the fact that they're going to wear it. So if you're not at that stage, then maybe it's better to give them options rather than full choices. So options being, do you want this shirt or do you want this shirt? Or out of these 10 shirts, pick 2. That's something that we do at our house at the dinner table. I don't tell my kids what to eat, but if I have 3 or 4 different types of vegetables that is being served, I'll say, you need to pick 2 and one of them has to be green. That gives them control, but it's also control in a controlled environment because they don't just get to eat bread and pasta. They have to choose some of the vegetable piece, but they have control over which vegetable. I don't have to do that as much because over time, kids understand. And once they start making these choices, they know that these are the types of choices that they need to make in order to feel good. So we have lots of conversations about eating lots of different foods. And we've had these conversations for years. My oldest has been hearing it. She's 16. She's been hearing it her whole life. And the other kids have been watching, and they all hear these conversations that are happening between all of us. So the younger ones seem to learn faster than the older ones because they're that exposed to that much more conversation around these things. So whenever I have put out a bunch of vegetables that they need to choose, I always make sure there's more options than the 2. Because what that does, if you have 4 vegetable choices and they have to choose 2, they've got to say no to 2, which is another big part of having autonomy. It's not just being able to say yes to things, it's also being able to say no to things. And I know that that's not always possible when you're at the dinner table, and we certainly have meals where that's not the case. And then we have different conversations such as, the person that made this for you was doing the best that they can with what we had. This is what is for dinner. And being a loving member of this family means eating this food. And I always try to have something on the table that everybody likes so that at least there's one portion of the meal that they can enjoy. But again, that doesn't always happen. It doesn't always work that way. But what I found by putting these types of things into our meal planning is that my kids, now that they're older, aren't as picky. Because kids when they're little, they have so many taste buds. They have way more taste buds than the adult mouth does. They got a lot going on in there. And they're growing, and it makes sense that kids have strong preferences. So finding ways to make them comfortable at the table was a priority for me, but not in terms of making every person their own meal. Because honestly, when you have 7 people in your family, not everybody gets to eat what they want all the time. And so that's just a part of the family. One of the other things that I do, because my kids pick out their clothes, I would take away their shorts, my boys' shorts, going into November. Because if I left shorts in their drawers through the winter, I have a kid, he would wear shorts in the middle of winter. I'm like, no, buddy. Like, you can't always wear shorts. It's not a good choice. So rather than having that conversation like you can't wear shorts today, I just took the shorts out of the equation so that when they would look in their drawer, they would see, okay, pant A, pant B, pant C. There was no short option. So that's a way of they feel like they have the autonomy and the control over that choice because they do, but it's just pulling back something that maybe wouldn't be such a healthy choice, which would be wearing shorts in -20. So there's ways that you can build it in that still protect your non-negotiables. One of my non-negotiable in winter was wearing shorts. And so the way that I protected that was just eliminating them so that it wasn't even a situation. So part of that means that you have to know as a parent what your comfort zone is. What are you okay with? What are you not okay with? What are your non-negotiables? What is something that they don't get a choice over? One of the things in our house has always been piano lessons. The kids don't have a choice. They have to play piano or another instrument. And we have like a whole big formula about what this means and how long they have to play for. And it is not easy to enforce. But for me, for our family, that was something that was a non-negotiable. Every other extracurricular thing that they want to do is completely negotiable. If they don't want to play hockey, if they do want to play hockey, there's none of us saying that this is the sport that they have to play, or this is the activity, or even that they have to play sports at all. Those things are fully negotiable and up on the table for the kids to decide. But the piano is a non-negotiable. As a parent, when you're giving the choices, you need to know where your limits are so that you're not taking things back from them that you've given to them, but also so that you're okay with what is happening in the house. I knew for myself I wasn't okay with them not doing piano. So in summary, here are my tips for how to help your kids learn how to make decisions. First of all, my first tip is to look for opportunities everywhere you can to give your kid decision-making opportunities. Because the more comfortable they get making decisions, the more capable they will be at making good decisions. And it's not just as easy as saying, okay, make a choice. There's also teaching them the strategies that you use for making difficult choices. So you've got a strategy already as an adult of how you make decisions. So part of giving choices is also giving kids the skills of how to weigh out those choices and talking through how you would approach that decision. Because remember, they've only been making decisions for 5 years if they're 5. And maybe they've never made any decisions because you've been making them all for their last 5 years. Whereas an adult in their 30s, in their 40s, you've been making decisions for 20 plus years, 40 years. So you have skills that you can share with them in order to help them make decisions. So that's my first tip, is look for opportunities for them to make choices and have a say in their life. The next part of that is to teach them the way that you make decisions. Help them to make good decisions by teaching them the strategies that you yourself employ. You've got a wealth of experience to speak to. The next tip, which we talked about, is figure out what your non-negotiables are. If you are really not okay with them doing something specific, don't give them that choice. Make sure that you're not clawing back the choices and the decisions that they get to make. And if you find that you have a lot of non-negotiables, if you find that there's hardly anything for you to give your kids options to making choices about, my thinking is that there's probably a little bit of work that you could do there to figure out how come you can't relinquish more control or see more opportunities for your kids to make decisions. Because if you're in the habit of doing that for your kid, of making all their decisions, it can be really difficult to relinquish that control and to relinquish that space. And sometimes the only reason why our kids don't make decisions is because we don't have the patience for it. Some kids really struggle to do this because it's new for them, and it takes them forever. They just go back and forth. I've got one kid that's like this in particular. I'll say things like, do you want to play this sport? And they don't know. And they will mull it over for a week, and then they'll mull it over for a second week. And they're just back and forth, and they can't make a decision quickly. And sometimes as a parent, I just want to come in and just be, okay, I'm deciding. It's taking you too long. I'm just going to decide. Because as a parent, I think as an adult, I have an experience of making decisions quickly. And this one kid in particular is really slow at making decisions. But that is a place that we can help. We can help speed up that process for them. And if we continue to pull back from them and not give them the opportunity because it takes so long, it's just a disservice to them. Because the more comfortable they get with making decisions, the quicker that they will be able to make decisions. I hope this is helpful for you. I hope that you can see right now ways that you could give your kids that gift of learning how to build capacity around making decisions, because the future's coming. The future where they will have to make all of these decisions is coming. And when you invest in a relationship with your child that focuses on make this decision, let me show you the skills that I use to make decisions, you're inviting conversation between you and them about how to make decisions. And what's really cool about that is when they get older, they invite you in when they're making a decision, because they're so used to having that conversation around decision making that they'll invite you in to have those conversations when they're making decisions that you may not even need to be a part of. Like, for example, course selection at high school, which is what my daughter's been going through. She makes her own decisions on her courses, and she has for a long time. All of her electives, that's fully her choice. But because we have a relationship where we discuss these types of choices, she brings it to me and we have a discussion. Now, she doesn't always do this, because if she knows what she wants to do, she will go ahead and do it and make the decision. But if she's unsure, she invites us in. And because we have that relationship, we already have that habit established of having conversation around making decisions. She just opens the door and invites us into her life and says, what do you think? This is what I'm thinking. And it creates space for us to have this really great connection over important decisions that are important to her and to the future and the way that she's going, which is such a blessing to me. I'm so glad you joined me today. I would love to hear if you are a parent who gives your kids a lot of choice. I would also love to hear from you if you're a person who has never thought about this as a parent and is feeling like, after listening to this, that you want to give your kids more opportunity to make decisions and choices in their life. If you go to the show notes, there is a place in there where you can connect with me to send me your comments. It means a lot when you listen in. It means a lot to me when you rate and subscribe to this show, because it provides me with greater opportunity to reach more people. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is an honor that you would share your space with me today. I'm Amy McInnes. This is The Art of Plenty.